Hey everyone, I'm the Rev. We're back on Le Mans Ultimate. I'm trying the intermediate races. It's the LMP2 at Spa, and somehow in Split 2, I've put it on pole position. I've made a conscious decision. I'm not going to voice it whilst I drive because I can't do two things at once. I'm going to try and go for a result. Wish me luck. Nervous already. I know I'm not supposed to be talking, but I'm already nervous. Watch for the green lights.
Yeah, the vow of silence that I took before this race, I don't really stick to it. But we're away, pit limiters off, away we go. Let's try and get it stopped into turn one. Early on the brakes, I saw the cars coming round the outside and I was a little worried that I broke too early.
You go deep, mate, if you want to go deep. I know I'm not supposed to be talking. But if he wants to go deep, let's let him go deep. Let's go.
But as it turns out, my braking point was correct, managed to get it stopped, turned in nicely, and the other guys went wide.
Tyre temperatures, keep an eye on them.
As you can see, on lap one of these races, I have the tyres showing in the bottom left hand side. Just helps me see the temperatures, so I know that they're not up to speed, they're not up to temperature, and I need to be a bit more tentative on this lap to avoid spinning, which unfortunately is something I've done very, very often.
No world record attempts first lap. Settle in.
And that is something that I definitely needed to do. This was my third attempt at this race and I'd completely ballsed up the first two. I span it in the first one and then in the second one I ran out of fuel. You really have to fuel save in this race, that's what it's going to be about, and it's not something I was used to.
Let's try and bring the tyres in.
The tyre temperature's now starting to look much better, and you can certainly feel it on Le Mans Ultimate. As the tyre temperature comes up, so does your grip, and you've got much more bite into the corners. I absolutely love how these LMP2 cars feel on Le Mans Ultimate. The more I drive them, the more I like them. As I get used to it, I get used to the braking, so I don't lock up quite as much, and I really, really enjoy these cars. They're fantastic.
1.4 the gap, we're pulling away. Let's go.
Rosano was in second place, but I certainly felt like I had the pace on him. It was Quentin Dragon who qualified second. Luckily for me, he ran wide at turn one, and that allowed me to get the jump, and I certainly felt that I had the pace on second place at this moment in time.
Bit of lift and coast, save some fuel, otherwise it's going to be tight.
As we're coming down now to the end of lap one, it's been nice, it's been neat and tidy, and I managed to do a little bit of fuel saving into the bus stop. Now, fuel saving is not a type of racing that I'm used to. I don't tend to do these longer races, I normally do shorter ones, which are very much flat out, everything you've got. We don't care about the fuel. So this was definitely uncharted territory for me, and I certainly felt nervous doing it. I actually felt nervous in general for this race, which was really weird.
1.5.
If you're watching this video and you can give me some tips on fuel saving, if you can see what I'm doing wrong, I'd love to know. If you can let me know in the comment section, as I need to get better at it. I just wasn't saving enough.
Again, lifting and coasting.
I tended to be lifting just on the straights. Should I be lifting into every corner? I'm not sure.
Try and save some fuel where I can.
As you can see in the top right, we now get the estimated laps. So this race was probably going to be an 18-19 lap race, something like that, and I needed to do it with one stop. As the race before, I'd had to stop twice, which really hurt me.
1.6 the gap.
Trying to manage a gap whilst in the lead is not a position I usually find myself in.
These LMP2s, oh my god, did he handle so well on Le Mans Ultimate. They're an absolute joy to drive.
I've got less than 6 months experience in these cars. They're not cars that I'd ever considered driving before, simply because I didn't like them really from a visual standpoint. However, to drive them here on Le Mans Ultimate, they're absolutely magnificent.
1.8 the gap. We're going to keep lifting and coasting and try our best to save some fuel.
So if you're thinking about making the jump from the GT3 class into the LMP2s, certainly give it a go. They really, really do feel great to drive. It's worth noting that you do need a silver safety rating to drive in the intermediate races on Le Mans Ultimate.
Not too much though.
I was coming into this week's races having not played Le Mans Ultimate for about 14 days due to being on holiday, but when I was away and I was coming back, I have to be honest and say that Le Mans Ultimate was the one that I was looking forward to getting back onto.
I'm in the 208s, so I can definitely go faster.
I certainly wasn't a 208. Race pace should have been about a 2 minutes and 7, I think. I did a 206 in qualifying, so a 207 would have been decent race pace.
Don't be start doing stupid things like that, Rev.
Little bit close to the track limits there, but got away with it. But I was certainly happy with this pace so far. 1.8 the gap to second place, and I was managing it, lifting and coasting, saving a bit of fuel. This felt pretty comfortable, and I think I was starting to settle down. Consistency, that was always going to be the key here, Rev.
1.7, let's go. I don't know why I keep saying let's go. Not something I would ever say normally.
I am still very much an amateur at this YouTube game, so if I do repeat myself when I'm driving, I do apologise. I find it quite difficult still to drive and speak at the same time.
Put a little bit of pace on.
I think that Rosano in second place, he just upped his pace a little bit, so it was time for me to up mine. I wanted to keep that gap nice and steady.
2.2 now the gap.
At this stage of the race, I felt like that was a pretty decent gap, but I was also mindful that I am not really well versed when it comes to the pit stops on Le Mans Ultimate, especially in this LMP2 class, so I wanted to make sure that I had a decent gap, or a gap enough that when I cocked up the pit stop, which I probably would, I may still come out in the lead.
2.1. Genuinely nervous. Good nervous though.
People in the comment section have said to me that sometimes they've not raced online and they felt that they didn't have enough experience. That's how I felt coming into this race. I felt like I was a bit out of my depth jumping into the intermediate races.
Remember to balance the car though through the bus stop, don't just coast it through.
It felt strange to be coming into a race feeling nervous, but I was also at the front, which is not a place I'm used to being, so it was a little bit out of my depth, out of my comfort zone, but the nerves, I was going to try and manage them and do the best I could.
Just try and keep him there, keep him at arm's length.
We're on lap 4, the pace was good, and I have to be honest and say that I felt like I was cruising. I knew I had some pace in reserve, which is always good.
So close, Rev, you little muppet.
I really would have liked a completely clean race, so I didn't want to start exceeding track limits, so I was very happy to see that track limit notification disappear, nice and green, no penalty. Whew.
Just try and manage it now as best I can, which I'm not used to, don't normally do this.
As stated, leading races is not what I usually do. However, I would love to get used to it. I would certainly love to get used to leading races, that'd be awesome. Skipping the race forward now to the end of lap 6, I'd done my very best in terms of fuel saving, I'd managed the gap and it was up to 2.7. I was very happy with how this race was going so far.
I mean, I'm not massively confident with the pit stops. I mean, I've done a few, but it's going to be touch and go.
As I moved into the beginning of lap 7, I had 3.3 laps remaining in terms of fuel, so that should take me up to lap 10, half race distance, so that should be 1 full tank of fuel at the stop, and that would be it, job done.
Still 2.8 the gap.
However, I'm not going to keep it that straightforward, as you can change how much fuel get put in at the stop. For some reason, I can't even remember why now, I must have thought I had too much. I randomly change from 10 laps to 9 laps of fuel.
As much fuel as we can get at the stop.
So I completely contradict exactly what I've just said there whilst driving, and I don't put as much fuel in as I could possibly get at the stop. I change it to 9 laps and I put 9 laps of fuel in, and that's going to cause me some issues come the end of this race, but you live and you learn.
Here's now where it's going to get interesting, lads.
Lap number 8, 2 laps of fuel remaining and I was catching the GTEs. This is indeed where it was going to start to get interesting.
Now what I had to get my head round was that these are under no obligation to get out of my way. It's up to me to get past. Coming from Formula 1, that's not something I was used to, so I needed to bear that in mind. They'll drive their line. It's up to me to find my way past safely.
Once again, another place where I was out of my comfort zone. Multi-class racing, once again, I've only been doing it for 6 months at the very most. It certainly takes some getting used to.
Should be able to get this lad now before the chicane.
It's worth setting a button up on your steering wheel just so that you can give the lights a little flash just before you do some overtaking of the slower class cars. Just let them know you're coming.
Not so bad.
Quentin Dragon, who started second, he's now in 8th place and he's having a fantastic drive. He was the one that I was very much worried about in this lobby.
Somebody's a very bad man. That's what's just been posted in the chat. You very bad man. Something's happened, God knows what. We've got 1.5 laps of fuel left.
Something had clearly happened further down the field as a message popped up in the chat calling somebody a very bad man, which I thought was quite a tame insult, to be honest with you. They could have said much, much worse.
So we'll let him go through the chicane. Oh, he's lost it.
The Porsche GTE there just going for an excursion, but luckily didn't cause us any problems.
We'll get this lap before the end.
So far, so good in terms of overtaking the GTEs. I wasn't doing anything stupid, I wasn't throwing my car up into dangerous places.
We're going to stop at the end of this lap.
And that was it, decision made. 1.3 laps of fuel remaining, get past the Aston Martin safely, and I'd be stopping at the end of this lap.
Oh my god, when that just popped up then saying the pit crew was ready, I thought it was track limits. What a muppet. Cheers, Jeff.
The pit stop was coming, I knew I wasn't used to them, and I was certainly starting to feel the pressure.
5.2 the gap now behind.
I had a decent gap, I had enough fuel, I needed to calm down, but it was easier said than done.
I've been distressed in my life. What's going on? Rather not be at the front.
Finding myself here in first place, there was certainly more pressure, hoping for a decent result than there was when you're fighting over 10th and 11th.
Tyres are okay.
If I could offer you any advice whatsoever for these longer races, it's become au fait with what is in the multifunction display. Get used to it, get used to what's on what page, as it makes things much less stressful when you know where things are rather than looking for them.
7.3 now the gap. He must have had some issues, I think, going through the traffic maybe.
I'd so far been quite lucky with where I'd caught the traffic, so I was hoping that continued to the end of this race.
I'm gonna box this lap. I am boxing this lap, Jeff.
And we'll pause the video there for just a second as I have some actual footage from inside my brain.
And we are thinking of plan B.
What was plan B, Ricky? I forgot. I fixed them.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
So with over a 7-second lead to second place, I decide, I know what I'll do. I'll take a lap of fuel out. I'll make it dead tight.
9 laps of fuel will do us.
Oh, it will do, will it, Rev? It'll do us, will it? Okay.
We have to fuel save a little bit, I can do.
But why? I've got a massive gap. I don't think I'll be applying for a strategist job anytime soon. What a stupid mistake to make.
We're in. Pit limiters on. Try and stop where we're supposed to.
All done. Go.
Keep the brakes on. Do not touch that accelerator until 40 seconds has passed. If you touch it, they'll let you go. Do not touch that accelerator.
I was about to get a little scared now when a car came in front of me.
And do not hit anybody in the pits either. Am I going to have to reverse out if he doesn't move? Oh, thank God for that. There you go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. 9.4 laps of fuel. Should tick over now to lap 10.
That time was a
Thank God for that. This is unbelievable, this. My maths is terrible for a start off, so the stress of just doing the maths is worse than the driving.
As stupid as it sounds, that was the truth. I actually felt like I was spinning plates in this race.
I will not cross the white line, Jeff, I promise you. Let's have a look at my tyres, my brakes. This is what we need to keep an eye on, the temperatures.
Now in the first race that I spoke about where I span it, this is where I span it. Came out of the pits, brakes weren't up to temperature, and I span it at the end of the straight.
So we're now in third, but they should have to stop. If they don't, I've got it right up.
Skip forward now to lap 11.
I'll go around the outside of you, mate. Cheers, pal, much appreciated. 8.3 the gap. Don't mind losing a little bit of time lapping the GTEs because he's going to have to do the same thing, which is awesome. Not used to that at all. It's just a new type. This whole venture into Le Mans Ultimate has just been a new type of racing for me. brand new experience. Absolutely love it. And Le Mans Ultimate, if you're on the fence, give it a go because it's fantastic. Should be second there, Ev.
With more GTs to navigate for me, Quentin Dragon was up to 4th. He was having a stonking drive.
He's letting me through. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. I did give him a little flash, little blink. Really much appreciated, mate. Thank you very much.
Before I went on my holidays, I did a multi-class race where I was in a GT3 and I really felt like the hypercars bullied their way through, which I don't want to be that guy, so I wanted to try and not do it. However, here, I choose the wrong option. I should have been on the right there, not the left.
That was my bad. That was totally my bad. He should have been coming back over to the racing line. That was my bad. Stupid there. Stupid. My fault, mate. Oh, that one's not my fault though. You're going off on your own. I didn't have an hand in that one.
Thinking on though, we could have had dirty tyres, so it could have been my fault. So my apologies if it was.
But yeah, he was coming back to the racing line, so that's my fault. I shouldn't be moving there, trying to go up the outside. Stupid. Hopefully that'll get to Eau Rouge before we do.
Quentin Dragon was now in 2nd place. I'd made life difficult for myself here. I was having to fuel save because I hadn't put enough fuel on, even though I had a big gap. Stupid move there, Rev, making life difficult for yourself.
Give him a little flash, out we go. I know he is, don't worry, I'm on it.
Jeff was telling me that Quentin was closing me down, but I thought, don't worry, loads of fuel. I've got loads of pace in hand here, I'll be alright.
Gonna have to wait behind him here now.
Still on lap 14, but with a couple of GTs to negotiate.
Cheers, mates. Thank you very much.
It was still so far so good in terms of traffic. This lad in front, he has a little bit of a moment.
This lad looks a little bit sketchy.
But I don't help matters now as we head into the right-hander. At the second part of it, I put my car in a stupid position. I don't really tell him where I'm going and there's a bit of a misunderstanding.
Give him a flash. Ooh, that was close, mate. That was close. There's no need for that, pal. Woof.
Looking back, there was nothing to moan about. It was just a misunderstanding.
The Dragon's now 7 behind.
Skipping forward now to lap 18, that gap is less than 2 seconds, and what you can see here is a face of a worried man. The time was ticking down, less than 1 minute 20 in this race. I was on lap 18 of 19 and I had 1.1 laps of fuel. This was going to be so tight. I had no idea whether the race would finish on the end of the counter or whether the counter would get to 0 and then it would be 1 lap after that. I had no idea. So I was kind of stuck in a little bit of a no man's land. I wanted to fuel save, but Dragon was catching me and I didn't really know when the race ended. So I was having an absolute nightmare at this moment in time. I'd completely shut up and I was trying to work things out in my brain. And as we've already seen, my brain's as good as Ferrari's Formula 1 strategies. So to say that I was currently having kittens would be an understatement. I thought I'd thrown this race away. The gap was down to under a second. The lap counter said lap 18 of 19. According to the fuel gauge, I had 0.7 laps remaining. If there was a 19th lap here, I was not going to make it. I didn't have enough fuel. In my head, I was thinking I had to try and take the bus stop as slow as I could. I couldn't afford to cross the line with seconds remaining. I needed, if it did end on 0, for this race to end on 0. Oh dear God, had I thrown this result away.
Think he's fuel saving as well? He is.
The checkered flag from pole to the win. Thank God.
Oh my God. Half a lap worth of fuel remaining. Oh my God. Wow. 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 I thought it was going to be counting down to 0 plus 1. Oh my God in heaven. Good drive, mate. Great drive.
It was indeed a fantastic drive from Quentin Dragon. I was absolutely knackered, but I was absolutely made up with what was my first win in the intermediate category, and it saw us safely into silver. We'd managed to get the silver driver rating, silver safety rank. Couldn't have been happier. As always, I've been the Reverend. Thank you very much for watching.